To UCR Writers Week 2023. We are thrilled to have you join us today. My name is Trinity Thompson, and I'm a first-year MFA student at UCR. I'm here to share with you a few helpful notes in case you've never attended an event on Crowdcast before. When it's time for our Q&A segment, please submit your questions using a Q&A feature, not the chat. And let's give it a moment or two for everyone to join us our session. As we're waiting, let us know in the chat where you're listening in from today. And also, please let us know if you've attended UCR, if this is your first time at our Writers Week. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with our session.
UCR Writers Week. Today we are honored to present Tom Lutz and Juan Felipe Herrera. Juan Felipe Herrera.
Oh, okay. Good. Sorry.
Cool. Thank you. Juan Felipe Herrera is the 21st Century Poet Laureate of the United States, 2015 to 2016, and is the first Latino to hold the position. From 2012 to 2014, Herrera served as the California State Poet Laureate. Herrera's many collections of poetry include Every Day We Get More Illegal, Notes on the Assemblage, Senegal Taxi, Half of the World in Light, New and Selected Poems, a recipient of the Pen Beyond Margins Award and the National Book Critics Circle Award, and 187 Reasons Mexicanos Can't Cross the Border, Undocuments, 1971 through 2007. He is also the author of Crash Boom Love, a novel in verse, which received the Americas Award. His books of prose for children include Skate Fate, Calling the Doves, which won the Ezra Jack Keats Award, Upside Down Boy, which was adapted into a musical for young audiences in New York City, and Cinnamon Girl, Letters Found Inside a Cereal Box. His book Jabberwalking, a children's book focused on turning your wonder at the world around you into weird, wild, incandescent poetry, came out in 2018. Herrera is also a performance artist and activist on behalf of migrant and indigenous communities and at-risk youth. Next, we have Tom Lutz. Tom Lutz is the American Book Award-winning author of a dozen books, most recently a photo essay portraits, Moments of Intimacy on the Road in 2020, the philosophical essay, Aimlessness, an Introduction, 2021, and the novel Born Slippy in 2020. He is the founding editor and publisher of the Los Angeles Review of Books and distinguished professor and chair of the Department of Creative Writing here at UCR. Take it away.
Thanks so much. And we're going to get, there we are. Oh.
Good.
Yes. Okay, here we are. We're going to get a slideshow up. What we're going to do today is talk about both Juan Felipe and I have been taking pictures, photographs for our entire lives, and but completely non-professionally, completely in an amateur mode. I think it's fair to say, right? I mean, and so this is, except for the book that I published last year, which is the first time I'd ever done anything like that. This is the first time I've ever shown them to an audience or anything like that, and the first time that you have as well.
That's right. Yes.
So, so this is a kind of new genre, new field for us. And as soon as we get the slideshow up on the screen, we'll go ahead and start showing you some of them and talking about them. And so we'll talk about them for a while and just have a little chat, a kind of unrehearsed chat, and then we'll ask you if you have any questions for us about the pictures or anything else, like your taxes, for instance. Okay, here we go. So, as I said, we've been taking pictures for a long time. Here is a self-portrait by Juan Felipe in 1964. That's the camera under your hand there, right?
It's invisible. You can't see it, you see. You're right. That's it. That's my little brownie. My mother's brownie, actually.
And with with a roll of film in it.
With a roll of film in it.
And you know, at a time when photography was completely different from what it is now.
Yeah.
Were you developing them in a dark room as well?
No, I developed them in the house. And it's an apartment on C Street, 11th and C Street in San Diego by San Diego High School. And you know, I had the developing solution. My little chemistry lab is like the what do you call it? The mad scientist kind of thing. And I developed it on the tub, you know. So that's where I had my little wild developer. And then I flashed it on printing paper. I think it was with a flashlight, you know. And then it hit the paper. And then I think and after that you develop it. I think that's why I developed it in the solution. And then I hung it out to dry. And there it was.
Yeah.
And I had this mirror, and I said, wait a minute, I might as well, you know, use the mirror, do a little Dali work here, and bang. And that was the photo. But you're right, I did it in the house.
Yeah, and I developed my first pictures in a bathroom.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, with a friend who knew how to do it because I did not. And then when I lost touch with that friend, I didn't ever develop a picture again.
And you developed your friend after that.
I developed new friends. Yeah. And but then it would be nice if that worked, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for the photos.
But it is not.
There you go.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a. Is this a turn on situation? At any rate, this then by the time we're looking at this photo, I mean, I Juan Felipe sent me 40 or so or 50 pictures to look at, and I picked a bunch of them out. And this first series, you can actually go through the next couple if you don't mind. Oh, it's working. Great. And this first group of them are all a little bit like abstract-ish. Even though they're real scenes, obviously recognizable real scenes, there's something about some of them that is more about texture and surface than it is about the object that's getting represented.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. You know, sometimes you walk into them and you go, "Oh, this has to be a photo." And I saw these tailpipes in a truck stop store. There was a nice restaurant there in New Mexico between Mesquite and El Paso. So I saw this truck stop there, and there we were. I go, "Oh, look at these tailpipes. These are great, you know, whatever they are, they're great." And look at them. They're like figures, and they're almost talking. So, and they're all looking somewhere, you know, looking for Godot. And so then I took the photo, and you know, that chrome, you know, reverberates, and the face there's some kind of face going on. It's some kind of group, and so it's a really good feeling. So right, I took that one, and then that was a liquid almost. It turns into liquid, and then sometimes, you know, when we walk in an airports, there's so many things in airports, in addition to people, and up in the roof, there's this kind of hanging net, and that was it right there. I said that looks like a dolphin, like, you know, magic dolphin. So then there it is. Or like we were talking about, kind of like a cosmic black hole, and this also has that feeling to it. But that's what it is. It's like a net hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, and it's a portal of some kind.
It's a portal.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, we always do this walk. Remember this walk in the airport? We come up the stairs. We've been lugging the luggage around for all our lives. We've been in the plane, and now we're going to another gate. And all of a sudden, that gate was that walk was this. You know, it's empty, but I loved it. So there it is, nice and shiny. And both Tom and I have lived in Iowa City in the late '80s and early '90s. And this was one of the places where we used to hang out, called George's. They had those really greasy hamburgers and chips. And Iowa City has 178 taverns or so.
Yeah, 2,000 people in 200 bars. Yeah.
200 bars. But so this is a night shot of George's place. And isn't that neon light looking good. It's looking really good.
We
And,
we met in San Francisco,
uh,
introduced by Jose Cuellar, who's known as Dr. Loco.
right before we took off, both took
Yeah.
off.
We were both on our way to Iowa,
Yeah.
and Jose said you have to meet each other. You're moving to Iowa, so we both showed up in Iowa on the same day,
Yeah,
and basically hung out for the next 2 years,
that's right.
and that was
It was so cool.
the birth of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
still developing.
Still developing, just like the developer.
And who are these guys?
This is First Street, the First Street Band, and we used to work together, poetry and music, and so I caught him hanging out near 16th and North 16th Street in San Jose. This is all in San Jose, California, and they're kicking back, and we did shows together. And in the middle, there's Francis Wong, who's going to be here actually in early May.
In May,
Because
right?
we're going to do a performance poem mandala here at UCR, first time ever. That piece. It's total experiment. So I'm looking forward to it. And there's Francis looking, he was also living in San Jose. And yeah, we had met early on in 1978. And the guys are there, Bo Kane and Wally, the drummer, and Corey, I think, is the pianist. And Francis, the woodwinds, and put them all together. They were just fabulous and incredible. As a matter of fact, Francis did a workshop here when I was here.
Oh yeah, we did a gig.
We did a gig.
Francis
We did a gig.
and me and
Yeah.
you.
Oh yeah.
And this is one of the fun things about being Juan Felipe's colleague. He said, "Come, bring your keyboard." I forget, was it the Los Angeles Times Book Group?
Yeah, it
Book
was a
Festival?
LA Times Book Festival.
And so we're on a stage, and
And you brought your keyboard.
and Juan Felipe says, "Okay, go." And
What you did.
we did. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Francis is an exceptionally fine musician on about 14 different instruments.
Yeah, he is. With the classical Chinese instruments too.
Uh,
Hey, folks. Hey, folks. I caught a thought bubble. This is a thought bubble. This is Washington Square in New York City. And I was bopping by, because I like to bop by at Washington Square Park. And I said, oh, he's having a thought. It's a thought bubble. and I took it right there.
and you'll see when we get to my pictures a little later, all of my pictures are the same. They're exactly the same. I only have one mode that I work in. And but Juan Felipe has a number of modes. One of them is this kind of snapshot, this kind of in motion snapshot, right? Stop motion snapshot. And some are more posed, and some are architectural, as we'll see. Some are texture poems, I feel, but lots of different modes. And I do love the snapshot mode.
And then we got a lot of black in there.
Yeah,
It's really black.
yeah,
I just noticed it. Oh yeah.
yeah.
The black really makes it all happen. Ha ha! That's where the thought comes out of. It's a thought triangle. Yeah. And this is popping down Market Street, one of my famous streets in San Francisco since I was a kid. Spent a lot of time in San Francisco, and this was not that long ago. And I just walking by, and I said, let me just take this photo, and there it is, as is, And I found that all the people there are saying so many things, and I like the man up front, and then the backdrop, and then the 60%.
Absolutely. And it's the black and white gives it some kind of
It does.
emotion that
Yeah.
it wouldn't have if it was color, right? I mean, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does. It does.
And is that just because we grew up on black and white photographs
grew up
as
on
the
black
art
and
form?
white. Yeah. Color was amazing to see whenever we saw it.
Yeah.
Like on the covers of photo magazines, it was in color, and the oranges.
Yeah.
I love orange. So in fact, I'm wearing orange.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the black and white is great. It's
Yeah.
fabulous. Like in here, yeah. These are workshop students at the University of Iowa. Yeah, and they really cool. They're kind of giving each other friendship, solace, and they're both writers and poets, and they both are part of the workshop. And you know how the workshop is; it can get tough. And so they were close. I was close to them, and I went ahead and took the shot. And I really thought it was going to work out. And this is back
And
on.
here's some color.
Yeah, this is back on. Right, here's where the color comes in. This is back on Market Street, off of Market, and it was um, the gay parade. Is it gay parade?
The Pride Parade.
Yeah, Pride Parade, and so it was almost over, and people were still walking by, and then I said, "Oh man, this is fabulous!" And the sky, the buildings, the rails, and the person, and the colors.
And there's a
What is
real
it?
long, strong tradition of street photography, right, in America, from Ouija and
Oh, yeah,
everybody
yeah.
else on.
Even
right.
Avedon got into the street.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
With a
And the kind of the temporariness of it is part of what it's about.
That's what it's about. You're
Right.
right. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, it's just that little moment
Yeah.
passing by, just
Yeah.
passing by. After the photo was taken, that person was already
Yeah.
moved on
Uh,
forever. In terms of this particular scene. Dot, 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 dot. This is in Tucson, Arizona, and I had come over to visit a number of schools, bilingual schools. And this one is, I think, Los Amigos. Los Amigos. Imagine Los Amigos Elementary School, and the children came out, and they wanted to kind of welcome me, and they did their folklorico dance, and right there on the cement, which is not the typical place to dance, but they went ahead and danced on cement, and the music is on, and they're young, and this is they're just whirling and having a great time, and happiness, pure happiness, and youth and elementary life, and dance and the colors.
and the move in process movement is what captures the happiness, partly, right, and partly his face, partly both of their
process.
faces.
That's right. Yeah, and the swirling and the tapping on the floor. In how did you call it?
In process.
In process. Yeah.
Right there, because like in the middle of you're catching in the middle of a movement, and this idea, I call it the Baxendall thesis, but I think that's a thing that I read, and now I've been misremembering it for 30 years. So I think it probably has nothing to do with the guy named Baxendall, but I call it to myself the Baxendall thing. The argument is that what people get fundamental pleasure from exercising a skill.
Oh,
It doesn't matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
I knew this from when I was a short order cook. Just having being able to flip a few eggs. Just that it was just like every time it's like, oh yeah, I did it again. It's just like it feels good, right? And you can see this kind of the pleasure in their skill.
Oh man,
with them, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. You just made me think of when I was working at Jack in the Box, and I finally made it to like the person that talks to the people that come by the little window, and you give them a little bag of food and all that. And I finally made it there. I was stuck over there, with the French fries, and I was stuck taking food to the freezer, which is called destroying the food, because you can't keep it because you'll get sued and it'll be too old and all that. So I used to find myself in the freezer eating food because I was destroying it. I said, "What are you doing back there?" "Well, I'm destroying the food you said to destroy." But I finally made it to the window. I could see people in their car and everything. And guess who I saw? Man, it was number one experience. I turned around, and inside the car was Jane Goodall and Jane Goodall and oh gosh, and the gorilla. What's the
No.
gorilla's name? What's the gorilla's name?
I don't.
Coco. It was Jane Goodall. You know, oh, here you go, ma'am. The 2 burgers, a double patty, a cheeseburger, and extra fries. Because there was Coco, real Coco. Real Coco was right there, and she was here getting the bag. I go, oh, hi, Coco. It was Coco. I served fries to Coco, and she was going to. This was near Stanford. We were in Stanford, and that's where they were going. They're going back to the Primate Center.
I don't know how I feel about Jane Goodall feeding Jack in the Box to Coco.
Well, he was hungry. It's hungry time. It's noon. I know that's right. That's correct. I said, Jane, what are you doing?
That is a nice hat.
That is a nice hat. This is elementary school graduation day in Fresno, and her name is Chloe. This is Chloe, and she's dancing, and she became a really good performer and singer in the Fresno area. But this was graduation day, and she's wearing this outfit, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to have to do a close up as fast as I can." And there it is, and of course, we love the color red, and the green was perfect. And then to top it off, and then she had green and red, and this most interesting, I don't know what it is,
Eye makeup.
flourish, eye makeup flourish, and I really like it. Isn't that great? It's really nice. And that red, Viva la Red.
Yeah,
that was nice.
And the red lipstick too, and that different green on the tie, and
yeah,
it's just fantastic.
Yes, elementary school days.
Here's another in motion snapshot.
This is in motion. So there I am hanging out at night at Washington Square Park again, and probably going to the hotel, which is on the left, the Washington Square Hotel, and Washington Square restaurant on the corner. And I see this person crossing the street. I go, oh, this is great. It's like as if the light, the bicycle is lit up. And I said, oh, I got to do this. And I managed to get a picture of the bicycle rider, the night, was it the night bicycle? Yeah, the night bicycle. So there it is, folks.
and like that one, this is the world in motion. It's place, but it's a static place, but it's in motion.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You're going by in a car, I take it?
Oh, this is a train.
Or train.
Train to probably to either Sacramento or San Francisco. And there's nothing like taking those photos where everything is moving, and then they're gonna melt. And eventually they melt when you have the photo. And there it is, this good old Fresno from a train window.
And it's kind of it's all a tone poem.
It's a tone poem,
right?
It is. Little tiny houses right back there.
And I picked out a number, but I hope they're in the right order here. I picked out a number that we're also. Oh well, this is back on the bike theme. This is a very hectic tone poem.
Yeah, this is Marina del Rey. I was hanging out there with my son Joshua and daughter Almazol and friend. And of course, there's this bike. And I go, well, it's time to get that photo of that bicycle. It's like a lowrider.
Yeah.
It almost morphed into a lowrider bike. And I call it White Reindeer.
Yeah. And I wonder if the bike gets redecorated for the different seasons. This is the Christmas bike, right?
This is
the snowflakes and the reindeer and the.
Right? This is the Christmas bike. You're right. It has a little life. This is little Christmas life, and then it turns into DeSantis bike. That turns into something else. Probably the decorations move on.
Here's another one that's a bit of a tone poem too.
This is right. I was visiting my friend Lauro Flores in Seattle, and he doesn't live that far from where Cobain used to live, maybe like 3 blocks. So we went down there, and this is on a bench next to Cobain's house, big giant house. Uh, so there were all kinds of things on that bench. There was money. There were dimes and nickels and little letters and that faded photograph and kind of thick paint and then the texture. So it was perfect too.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like, well, this one too. Well, no, not that one. Let me go past this one for now and go to this one. This is right. This kind of texture and color and
Yeah.
right that are almost abstract paintings, right? They're almost abstractions.
That's right.
And there's something about
Yay.
okay, let me go back. Sorry.
Yay.
Wrong way. We'll get to those two. But this one, and this one also have that kind of like, you look at it and you're not exactly sure what you're looking at. Is it representational? Is it just about blocks of color? Is it about with words on it, obviously in this case? But I looked at this a number of times before I saw how it was a bench. That's a board on the top. I just saw
it's a bench,
color,
right?
Black color. I thought maybe it was a wall.
It's like a wall.
I wasn't sure, but bright color. It's just there's something about abstraction in visual art, and abstraction in verbal art.
Yes, that's right. Huh?
That's kind of interesting, right?
Yes.
And, we just had Percival Everett here, and 2 days ago, and one of the things he said is that he spent his entire career trying to write. He's also a painter, and what he likes to paint is something that starts out figurative, but then he just keeps abstracting it. And it gets more and more abstract, but he likes to have some ghost of the figure still there, like as the picture's secret. And he spent his entire writing career trying to write an abstract novel.
But you have the figure, and then it kind of dissolves, and
I think it gets painted over, and
kind of glazes
and layers,
and palette work.
Yeah,
hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
to write a poem like that.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I get a little palette thing going in it somehow.
Yeah,
like a little smearing also, and glazing.
Layers and layers, and I don't know exactly how you do that in writing, and he hasn't figured it out either. He's 35 books in, so maybe he'll get it.
35. This is a 3-street barrio.
Yeah,
it's 3 streets. So if you get in a fight, it won't last too long. And it's called Duranguito, Little Durango, and each house is different. Each house is different. It's probably around 4 houses, and they're all different. And this was the first 2 houses, and as you enter the 2-block section, which is what it is. It's like 2 blocks and Little Durango or Duranguito, and I love the colors. As you know, I stopped, and actually I was with Tim Hernandez, and we just rolled down the window. This is the roll down the window photo. So the window was down, and there it is. You know, you got lavender, purple, then the papel picado, the papel picado, the kind of cut paper that you fold it, and then you cut it, and then you unfold it, and you get all these beautiful patterns. Or you can really work on it and get figures like Carmen Lomas Garza has done, even out of steel and metals. Yeah, so that's this one. And estoy a gusto aquí. I'm very happy here. I'm very happy here, it says. Somebody's looking at the window. No.
And it's also a tone poem, right? I mean, it's got a kind of like a Clement Greenberg would talk about the art critic would talk about how what you should do as a painter is you should find the geometric shapes that are appearing in nature, and then just paint the shape.
Huh?
And this has some of that kind of geometric abstraction
It does.
to it as at the same
Yeah,
time.
we got a lot of little things in there. What do we have? Squares, rectangles,
Yeah,
triangles, and on, and
Yeah.
lines.
I don't know what you call that upside down crenellation up at the top. That little,
Oh, the upside
those
down.
little, those little things sticking down on the
Up
trim
there,
at the
way
top.
up there.
Yeah, I don't know what you call that.
Like little elastic motifs.
I did build one for someone once
Is it?
back in the day, but I don't know what they're called.
Yeah.
And this is a kind of naturally occurring abstraction, right? Because it's through the window.
It's through the window. It's through the window in a hotel, and I don't know if I'm in Chicago or if I'm in Cambridge. One of those two. And I looked out there and I saw the fire escapes and the dark areas, and then the kind of stained buildings in a way.
Mm.
And I said, "Oh, this is great. This is just beautiful," and the dark areas. So there it is. I said, "Oh, I got to take
Yeah.
a photo of this."
And that green,
Ah,
right?
that did it right there.
Yeah,
That's Lorca's green.
yeah.
And there's good old a little restaurant there, cafe, to top it off. A little saloon, in case you're thirsty or something. And then way up there's a little white area, a little clear area. How about that?
Yeah. Little sky.
Fire escapes.
Little sky.
Yeah, they're funky, those fire escapes.
And this beautiful thing.
Oh, and then I think it had rained. It hadn't rained in a long time.
Yeah.
Remember? And then it finally rained. And this is outside on the yard in front of the house. And I came out and I looked at the little branches of these plants that go straight up. And I was so happy to see them and how they held the rain drops. And I felt really good. I started to talk to the little branches and tell them thank you and that they were beautiful, because they are. And I was like, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, I had to do something. So I said, thank you very much. And how are you? And I'm glad you're here. And that was it. The perfect little raindrops on the plants. Because it had been dry, and it's been very dry, and they finally got rain, and they held on to their little, little raindrops.
I love the idea that they're holding on to them.
Yeah. And
this is your most abstract one, right?
Yeah. So the airports are kind of cool. So this is an airport. It's looking out the window, but the window already is this color, and then it kind of disintegrates the. Those, what are those long caterpillar-like tunnels that we go through to get into the plane?
Yeah, the ramp. Yeah,
the jetways.
The jetway. Yeah,
and these are the jetways, and that's what it is, and it kind of it's like a watercolor, all of a sudden, and things disintegrate a little bit, which is really good. Yeah, jetways.
And it's also like a jetway to nowhere, right? Because there's no plane there, right? So it's a
jetway to nowhere.
Kind of a sad jetway.
Yeah, that's another good title.
Sad jetway.
Jetway to nowhere. Yeah. Oh yeah. This is one of our favorites.
It's a donut.
It's a donut. Yeah. So I'm walking down Washington, D.C., and out of nowhere, there's giant balloon donuts. And I said, well, I got to jump in here. And then I shot this photo. And Tom and I have the whole thing about donuts, and especially gravy donuts. We have a whole thing going.
Okay. Can I tell the gravy donut story?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we when we were in Iowa, we both had little kids. And we would take them wherever we could take them. And one was a trip to a water park in Davenport, Iowa.
Yeah.
So 40 miles down the highway from Iowa City. So we take the kids to the water park, and we gotta take them all we do the water park thing, which they're jumping on the slides and running going down the things. They do all that, and of course they eat a bunch of junk, and they're all wiped out. And so we're driving back, and it's kind of like, are we there yet? When are we going to get home? You know, it's starting to get to be the cranky kid in the car. And Juan Felipe said, you know what I think we need? I think we need some gravy donuts. And the kids are like, they're not sure they want gravy donuts, but they're kind of intrigued by gravy donuts because they're over sugared. They know they're over, right? So they're not sure they want a donut, but you know, push comes to shove, they'll take a donut. But a gravy donut's a little more savory. So anyway, and so they all kind of perk up, and Juan Felipe says, this looks like an exit that might have a gravy donut shop. And they would all look down the streets on both, and there was no gravy donut shop. We get to the next exit, and Juan Felipe said, I think the problem is that we need some horses. Need like a dozen horses and some cilantro. and we'll find the gravy donuts. Anyway, it got us home. The entire gravy donuts adventure search.
We survived.
We survived. So I just wrote a piece for the Iowa Review, reviewing Juan Felipe's poetry over the years, and I titled it "Gravy Donuts."
So they came true. I bumped right into them, and I forgot what it was all about. But there they were, these two giant.
And it's I kind of almost hate to destroy the mystery because it's a mysterious picture, right? What is it exactly?
Yeah,
it's hard, right? It's so real, it's so material, and yet it's confusing. So, but what is it? What is that? What is this green and black and what's that red circle? What are we looking at?
It's the same thing, except it's different colors.
It's just a donut.
It's another donut. It's another donut.
I don't know what it was. It's elephants all the way down. It's donuts all the way across.
There's donuts taking over the city.
So it's through one donut and another donut.
It's through one donut, and then there's the other one ahead.
Yeah.
And then I said, "Oh, this is perfect."
And you got them to paint the yellow on the street to match the yellow on the donut.
There was some
nice.
donut work out there. Yeah, good old DC.
Oops, I don't know why it jumped forward, but I think this is my favorite picture in the whole batch.
Yeah, this is a tiny. What do you call these? Where you keep a horse? What is that called? Corral.
Mm-hmm.
Like a tiny corral for a small horse. And I wasn't too happy with the size of the corral, but it wasn't my horse. And this is in Bracito, New Mexico, which is small town, maybe 150 people, and right next to Mesquite, which is next to a number of other small towns. And then you finally hit El Paso, Texas. So you're 45 minutes from El Paso, Texas, but inside the land, not by the freeway. And this little horse was purchased by one of my nephews. I said, well, you got to let him go somewhere. You got to get a bigger corral, but it was his horse. So I would come by and feed the horse some cool food and wash his little tank over there, food tank. And this is where he hung out. And it was a little bigger. And the wall and the colors and the green and the red.
Yeah, and the blue and the green on the wall, that's
nice, huh?
That's fantastic.
That was there, yeah, that was there.
And the horse is in such motion and obviously just got out of bed with the hair, right?
He just got out of bed.
And but it's I find this very moving.
It is kind of a little mysterious also, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
With that black quadrant, almost quadrant.
Yeah, and
triangle.
Yeah. And in a corner but moving. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And I said, I'll take a photo. And I was joking to Tom that this was my pickup, but it's you've probably seen this in the San Diego Children's Museum.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the San Diego Children's Museum. So they invited me to do reading, and I was just hanging around the museum. And this is one of the things they have for children. So the children can come by and they can splash any kind of the paint there, as much paint as they want. They can paint the truck. They can throw paint at the truck, and the children are free to do that. And then the paints. What kind of paints do that? It's like was it poster paint? Some kind of paint that just
tempera or
like tempera that keeps on building on itself.
Yeah.
So there it is. This is one of the entertainment areas for the children at the San Diego Children's Museum, which has a lot of fun areas that children have fun in. They also have a giant, almost as big as this room, half of this, maybe 1/4 of the size of this room, a sink, but it's made out of cloth, so you can hang out in the sink, which is really nice. And this is the truck, and that's the paint that's been folding. And ladies and gentlemen, expect a miracle tonight at 7 p.m. In case there's a little issue you got to deal with. And this is it. This is in East LA. This is in East LA. We're just hanging out in East LA. I was looking for a certain kind of music, and I saw this. I go, oh, wait a minute. Number one, there's a miracle tonight.
Yeah.
It's 7 p.m., which is a magic number. See, that's already a little message there.
It's a lucky number. Yeah, that's right. 7, yeah.
And I like those colors, blue and neon, yellowish neon, and it's so clear. And it must be true. It's going to be that big of a sign.
But I do feel I love this one in part because I do feel that you expect miracles. That
you do feel that?
I do feel that. I feel that you expect miracles. I feel like you sit down to write a poem and you expect miracles, and then they happen. All right. After all of that difference, here are some pictures of mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said I only do one thing. I every once in a while I do something a little artistic. I think this is a kind of an artistic photo. I think of this as my artistic photo. But really all I ever do is take pictures of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna let you want to punch the buttons?
Yeah, what do I do?
Just punch that one.
The little go button?
Yeah.
Okay, will do. Okay.
And all these pictures are from Havana about 12 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, something like that. They're all from the same trip. They're all from Havana, except one in the middle that's a little bit outside of town, but they're all from Havana. Yeah, just go the other way. Yeah. Okay. And I'm not sure I can continue to do what I was doing then, because what I would do is go ask people if I could take their picture and walk up and take the picture and show them the picture that I took in my viewfinder, right? Because it's a digital camera. And this was pleasurable for people because it was before everybody in the world had a smartphone, had a cell phone that could take pictures. Oh, yeah. And so it became a way to kind of develop a quick little friendship, a quick little moment of intimacy out of nothing except for the camera that was between us, and often people would either like the picture or not like it and just say, and so I'd take another one and show them, and take another one and show them, and it became and so sometimes the kind of you'll see in some of the faces that there's some pleasure, and some of the pleasure is just that, well, this has been kind of fun to see myself in these different guises over a series of photos. And some of it for the kids, they hadn't seen themselves in pictures that much. Again, pre cell phone, especially in Havana, and kind of just displaying their friendship, and just found it found it pleasurable, and most people found it pleasurable as well. I had one woman I took a picture of in a market in Kazakhstan, and she was clearly the kind of like the funny one in her group of friends, all women in their 50s and 60s and even 70s, in a market selling vegetables, and so I took her picture, I showed it to her, and she goes, no. And then I backed up again, put the camera up, and she stuck her chin up in the air, and I took the picture, showed it to her, and she was like, no. I went back and set up again, and she went, stuck her chin higher in the air, and she did that like 3 or 4 times, and the end it was like the full Mussolini. And when she got to that one, I showed it to her, and she was like, okay, good. And this was fun for her. It was fun for her friends. Her friends were all watching her put me through these paces, and it was just it became a little thing. And then I took pictures of all of them as well, and so it was a kind of little momentary community builder. And in a sense, the hand on his chest is him thanking me for the picture he had just looked at a minute ago, an earlier version of the picture. Yeah. And it's such a tiny little thing to do.
Yeah.
And yet
it means so much.
It meant something, yeah.
Yeah. And in Cuba.
Yeah.
In Cuba.
And you see all the Dodgers, Yankees, Blue Jays. That's right. American baseball.
Yeah.
And this is the one from out of town. She's a docent in the Hemingway house, where Hemingway lived for years outside of Havana. And she let me into his study to sit in his chair in front of his typewriter.
All that's still there.
Yeah, all that's still there. All that's still there. Wow. I was just saying to Jen, I keep looking forward to someday when I'm no longer a vain person. I don't want to have any vanity anymore. Anyway, Hemingway had on the wall of his bathroom, you can see all this scribbling on the wall, and it's all numbers. And it turns out that he was keeping track of his weight every day to the half pound. So 187 and a half, 188. 188 and a half. And he clearly kind of recorded it while he was sitting on the toilet, because they kind of like they curve around from where the toilet is. So it's not a straight list. And day after day after day, year after year,
really, all
of his weight scribbled on the wall. I don't know if he wanted to be thinner or heavier, because he had a sense of himself as a big boxing guy. I don't know if which way he wanted to go, but he couldn't have been that happy with it, or he wouldn't have kept such track.
It's looking at your weight too much.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of numbers.
But I don't know. I look. Can you go back to her face again? I find something such an interesting, solid, deep person in her eyes, right? I mean, am I just projecting that, or is that
no,
there? I think it's there, right?
I think you're right.
And
what is it?
Well, she's got an okay job in a really tough place.
I got
you. I was happy to tip her a lot for allowing me to sit in the chair, and she was appreciative, because it's a tough life. This was, again, 13 years ago. The sanctions on for 50 years at that point, and everybody's scraping.
That's true. Well said. That's true. And we don't make contact with Cuba much.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy about your photographs. To bring us closer.
I think it's getting a little bit easier. Do you see the little arrow on the middle of the picture there? Is there a way you can move that out there. That's great. Perfect.
Oh.
Thanks.
Okay. How that happened?
All right.
Uh-huh.
And I took a picture of her and also several of her cousins and friends, and there was a whole group came around in the street, and then she ran and got her daughter for the important one.
That's why you would probably get people coming around
Yeah,
while you were
Yeah.
taking a photo.
yeah, and yeah. I mean, in India, I was taking pictures of this girl, like a 12-year-old girl, who kept saying to me, "Canada," and I said, "No, America." She said, "Canada," and I said, "No, United States." She's like, and she knocks on the door. She gets her mother and her sister to come out there, and by the time other people are coming in, there was a whole conversation about, and people kept saying Canada. I said, "No, America," but Canada turns out to be the language of Karnataka, one of the major languages of this part of India that I was in. They were asking me if they're basically saying English. I'm saying no, America, English. Anyway, but that was one of those times when, because a conversation started, there was time for other people, because I kind of stuck out.
In India.
Yeah, in India and in Havana too. Yeah, I kind of stick out in a lot of the places that I go, and so that makes me, people are curious about why I've wandered into this little street in the middle of nowhere, and so they come around to try to find out. And
So how do you do it? I noticed that the conversations you have in your book, they're amazing conversations. So they're natural conversations. How does that happen?
sometimes it's because there's enough English, or somebody in the group who speaks English.
Yeah.
Sometimes not. Like and of course I have a little Spanish, so I could speak to people in Cuba, but in Uzbekistan or Azerbaijan, no. I mean, there's no language, and there's not a lot of English. But something happens if you are kind of engaged with somebody, or even with a group, for a while, and some proper names help. People will say Clinton, Bush, like things like that. Like proper names would help. But Obama, but beyond that, I don't know if it's like Chomskyan deep grammar or something else, but people talk in their language to me. I talk in English to them, and we start to understand each other a little bit. And so it starts to feel like I'm kind of the way I am with Spanish or French, or languages that I know a little bit of. I'm kind of guessing half of it and understanding half of it, and somehow that happens in these situations after days and days in another country, especially.
Yeah, because it's just so beautiful. It's one of the hardest things for me to do. I don't think I do it at all. As you could see, I did all those abstract pictures because I don't have to talk to the abstract wall.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's so difficult. Here's someone you don't know, and here's your camera, and now you're going to get close to them.
Oh yeah.
Unless you go, okay, I'll give you $1 and may I have your permission because I'm going to use this camera. That's not going to work at all.
No.
So you have to enter. And
you have to enter.
And you're so good at that.
I love it. I'm not sure I can't do it. I'm going to be a little shy if I actually talk to anybody here. But on the road, I feel I don't know why. I feel like
you're home, kind of, in a way.
Well, I'm anonymous. I don't know what it is. I don't know why, but I feel I find these kinds of moments, quick little moments of intimacy, very, very easy.
Yeah, that's how you write about them. It's also it shows us what you're doing and what's going on, and that's also very complex and so well done.
Thank you.
You know, one is to do it, and then one is to write it. And both of those things
Mhm.
are very well done. And I
Thanks.
think I'm going to stick to the abstract world. But I would like to do that. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's great.
And you know, this is. I once saw my grandma that sad. I was wearing a kind of hippie coat that she found very distasteful. She was very, very sad.
Was it a Edwardian coat?
It was some weird, yeah, some bizarre, overlong.
Okay.
Yeah, she thought it looked like a thrift store, and that's because it was from a thrift store. But I think we're kind of out of time, aren't we? Are we? So let's go ahead and
Okay.
get on a happier picture.
Okay. Okay. This little machine here. There we go. Oh, yeah, it's kind of
I like this guy. I like this guy. You can leave it on him.
Okay.
So we should take some questions.
Okay.
Yep.
It was so fun hearing you guys talk. I didn't want to stop you. But yes, thank you so much for sharing these memories and stories with us, and especially through the world and lens, no pun intended, of photography. So we do have time for just a couple questions. So I'd love to give people online the opportunity to ask some questions, and those of us here. I do see on Crowdcast that we have one in particular. So what kind of camera were these more recent photos taken with after the brownie?
That's for you.
After the brownie. I think I took most of mine with a cell phone, because the camera that I have, that's a Canon. I think it's a Canon 6000. I'm just terrible at stuff. My studio is like a washing machine, and it's plugged in somewhere, then it's not charged, and then it's charged. So since I'm carrying the cell phone, there it is. So it's I think all of them are on a cell phone, but the 6000 Canon camera has more ability, but I haven't taken care of it's being charged, and I don't even know where it is anymore in the room. It's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the average iPhone has, you know, more pixels than the best digital camera from 5 years ago.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So.
And from our black and white brownie world.
Yeah.
Camera.
Oh.
So maybe that's why. But there it is somewhere, lost in my room.
And all of the Cuba pictures were from a little Canon Sure Shot, little, you know, $100 camera.
Those came out great. Jeez. The camera.
Wow.
The
I feel like I'm in a little bit.
Don't lose it.
Yeah. The question I had was the relationship between these photos, which on the one hand are sort of casual pleasure, but on the other, it seems like you're using them to some degree drastically for your writing, to draw upon them for what you're writing. And I'm curious what the relationship you see between what you write and what you capture as an image. Are they, is it just sort of, this is cool and I'm going to describe it and in terms of how I'm perceiving what, like you were just doing now, or do you see them as inspiration for something beyond that, that you're going to use these images to then expand into some other literary framework? And the other thing is, you know, when I think about poetry, especially, it happens through time. And these are all still images. So I'm wondering whether you ever use video in the same way to find sort of have a beginning, middle, end, or a turn, you know, something that is more approximate to the experience of a poem.
Yeah, the images. I've been so influenced by the painters from all the way from from the Renaissance to probably Andy Warhol, and including all the great early 20th century painters, Kandinsky and Associates, and also, of course, before him, the Impressionists and the Surrealists and on. So I just loved all those guys from very early on, from high school. So I kind of just love all these abstractions, and they do they do tickle my brain and about writing also. I've written with those photos in mind in the past, maybe early 80s, I did a whole thing on the photo poems of the Chicano moratorium in 1980. This was the moratorium against participating in Vietnam, and we had these big gatherings in the thousands. And in 1970, moratorium in East LA, there were a number of people killed. And Ruben Salazar, a journalist of Los Angeles, was also killed by police. So I took photographs while I was there in 1980, and I wrote a photo poem on the Chicano moratorium of 1980. So in that occasion, I didn't use the photos. But after that, and I like to bring them to workshops on occasion, bring photographs and work with them. That's a lot of fun because it's all visual and everything. Almost everything we do is visual since, who knows, since what? Trilobite days, since early times. So our visual components are very sensitive, and that's what we work with. But I think you could definitely use the photos. I use magazine covers for creative writing, for workshops. Sometimes I say I want you to talk back to that model on that page, and to describe it and to have it talk back to you, so we can get some various ways of speaking, or how to have the speaker speak, not only from one dimension but from maybe three. You're looking at, responding, and describing all at the same time. See what happens. So yeah, images are fun a lot, and you can also use acoustic. You can use sound also that way. Play music and switch music and play it and overlay it, and that's also very interesting. So I love a lot. I love a lot of experiment. I love to experiment quite a bit. So feel free to use the images at any point, or to even tear up the photo and see what happens then. Like many of the painters did, or maybe like Picasso, to create collages and have a collaged poem with different voices and tenses and spaces. I caught myself writing a poem, and I was just so into it. It's called California Brown, and I jumped space. I was going very nicely, and then I went into another space, and I go, I cut into another space, and the description of it, or I'm writing it, and then I had to admit it. I said, I'll just admit it. You know, I'm in another space and time. I had to admit it, and I could use that as a bridge to where I was headed, and not have to remake the whole poem. So sometimes we kind of just jump, and or go into another image that we weren't thinking about. All of a sudden, we're talking about, who knows, the storms of Hawaii or something. Even though we were talking about East LA, and we go to the storms of Hawaii. Well, we can just say, well, now I'm in the storms of Hawaii. I wasn't going to go there in the first place. But we can admit those things also. So I found it to be a lot of fun. But definitely try the images and collages, and tearing through the image and physically tearing it. And I even had educators, I give them pieces of cardboard and tell them to punch, use the fist and peel it and break it and twist it, and to generate some kind of, to generate energy, and then go from there to expressing and writing and painting, and finally get to something else. But it's nice to do that. You just can't lay it down sometimes.
And you also do a lot of drawing. You do a lot of like doodling, right? Drawings that are also full of words and full of, right, that have that do actually, your video question. Some of the drawings are kind of in motion, right?
In motion.
They're not.
Yeah,
They're static in a way, but they also have a.
Yeah, doodleism. I'm a doodleist. Yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great thing to do, is to doodle.
This is for you, Robin, because I started writing screenplays, and when I was doing that, a couple of people who read what I was doing said, you really don't think visually at all, do you? And so I thought, well, I got to fix that, and so I started painting as a way to kind of train my visual imagination and get some kind of sense of my own possibilities and limitations. and I was a terrible, terrible painter. So I stopped doing that. And the photos allow me to kind of think visually. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if they inspire, like, almost like a Susan Strait kind of thing, where you take that image and just puts the whole life behind it.
Mm.
And we suggest that with this woman and what's behind her eyes. And
Yeah.
what's the life in. And it seems to me that there's a lot of, obviously, power for healing these images. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
if it reaches into your writing in more than a descriptive way.
Well, I've got these 3 travel books now, and they're all small anecdotes. There's very, very little sustained narrative. There are all these tiny anecdotes about people that I met on the road. And so they're very much what the photo is and what the meeting was and what it's all part of the same project, but it's not the photograph that's inspiring the work. It's just the moment that's inspiring both. I think am I getting the
Yes.
yeah, okay.
I am
So maybe we have to
sorry.
call that a day, right?
Call it a photo day.
Unfortunately, we are at time, but thank you so much for this fruitful conversation and for your words. It's such an honor. So now that we are at our close, I would love to invite Trinity back to the stage for our concluding remarks.
Hi. Hello. Hi. We hope you've enjoyed our time with us today. As you know, our goal is to keep Writers Week 100% free to attend, and we couldn't do that without the generosity of our donors. If you got something of value out of today's session, I know I certainly did. We'd like you to make a gift to show your gratitude. You can do so by clicking on the button at the bottom of your screen. Gifts of all sizes are appreciated, and everything given will help to support our next Writers Week Festival. And please join me in thanking our wonderful writers, as well as our moderator, Carrie, for our session today. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you again in one of our sessions tomorrow and next year.
Thank you to everyone who's joining us. And to Tom Lutz and Juan Felipe Herrera.
So cool. So cool. Yeah. I want to thank you, Tom, also, and for inviting me to present my photos. I haven't done that ever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun, right?
Yeah, man, it's beautiful, and they contrast both of them.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.